Okay, so well done on writing your persuasive letter to Mr. Todd. They were absolutely fantastic, and I sent those off. And I'm really pleased to say that he has agreed to move to a safer location in Whitby. He loved the letters, and in particular, he really liked the section that said about us creating an online platform to bring Whitby to life and the idea of telling famous stories about Whitby. So he has asked us today to retell some of those stories. Now, whilst we were in Whitby, we um, went on a storytelling trail, and it was a ghost story trail by Mr. Crank here. So our task this week is to write a ghost story about Whitby. Now, we heard some of the famous ghost stories, um, so you can pick one of those, or you could create one of your own. Um, I have also, there's two links here. So if you go onto them, you've got one about Dracula you could read about, and then you've also got some extra ones here. Okay. Um, so for mine, I picked the Enchanted Mermaids one. So first thing you need to do is plan. Okay. So you need to firstly think about your title. Okay. Then your main character. So who is it going to be about? Mine is about the mermaids, and I've given some adjectives. Then where is it set? Now it needs to be set in Whitby. You could set it on the harbour, you could set it in the abandoned abbey, you could set it on the beach, or you could even set it in the hostel that we stayed in. Maybe something haunting has happened there. Okay, then you start by setting the scene. So what has gone on? So in mine, the mermaids were washed up on the beach, and then they were kept in horrid cages, and they were ridiculed by all the sailors. Now, in all ghost stories, an unfortunate event takes place. So this might be that somebody's mistreated, they curse the town, somebody dies. It's normally something that not very nice has happened. So in mine, the mermaids curse the town, they escape, and then they release this horrible curse onto the town. And the curse is in the form of a deadly storm and ferocious waves. Okay? And then the final bit you do is you bring your ghost story back to the present. So, what haunting thing still happens today or remains in Whitby? So, what could you see or hear in Whitby still today? So, in mine, whenever there's a bad storm at night you can hear the whispers of the mermaids and the crying of the sailors. So, in yours, maybe you can hear something in the wind, or at a certain time at night or a certain day, you can hear something, or maybe you can see a ghost that haunts the town or is stood on top of the cliff. Okay, so all these are all here in your pack. So I've given you my story to have a look at, which I recommend reading. I've given you the links to the stories online to read. You've got a plan there, and I've also given you some powerful vocabulary for ghost stories and some French adverbials to use. Now, whilst writing this, you need to think about what you should be including. So you now know the structure, but what grammatical features or effective techniques should we be using? So in mine, I've used a clear opening to set the scene that we're in Whitby. So I put when Whitby was a quiet fishing town, just populated by a very small number. Now I'd actually probably say when, so maybe years ago, or hundreds of years ago potentially. Detailed description, so using those powerful adjectives. So I put here a sea full of decaying whale carcasses. So I decided in mind to also add about the Whitby whaling industry, and that's another reason why the mermaids cursed the town, because I thought it was quite interesting. French adverbials to illustrate change in time and help you write in flow. So for months, um, over time, day after day, and make sure you've got your comma after your French adverbial. Short sentences to create suspense. So many lives were lost. We're like, oh dear. Powerful punctuation, so I've used an ellipses. These create mystery, so never to be seen again. You want to know what's happened next. And you don't have to, but I've used onomatopoeia in mine, so that's a word that sounds like how it sounds. So I've got crash, whoosh, bang. So you can hear what the storm would have sounded like. And then a description of the weather, which is called pathetic fallacy. That's a really clever technique to use when writing a ghost story, because it helps create the mood, and it kind of a sense of a bad omen, so they use it a lot, even in films. So in Harry Potter, when something bad's going to happen, the sky turns a horrible grey colour, the storm gets stronger, it starts to rain. It normally means something bad's going on. And then this is your challenge, so is to try and use figurative language. Now I've got metaphor, simile. You could also use personification, so you could give something that doesn't normally um, have like human features. So for mine, I've got waves as tall as giants, opal-like scales. You could put the howling of the wind. Okay, so that is your challenge if you wish to accept it. So what I would recommend doing: read mine, go through the links, plan it, use the vocabulary, refer to your success criteria as you go along, and then when you remember, take a break from your writing, take a break, and then revisit it at another time to complete your success criteria and edit and improve. And then I've also given you some publishing paper. You know, you could publish it on Word, on a computer, or you could publish it handwritten. So can't wait to see your stories.